Single dad CO's incredible date decision revealed after his 8-year-old daughter's touching words. As Jake adjusted his tie in front of the mirror, the reflection showed a polished CEO, a man whose life seemed perfectly in order. But beneath the surface, turmoil bubbled. He glanced at the cycle of his responsibilities running a burgeoning tech company, tending to his spirited 8-year-old daughter, Lily, and now, preparing for a date with Sarah, a successful marketing executive. His heart raced with the anticipation of impressing someone who epitomized the professional world he believed he needed to thrive in. Yet the city skyline outside mirrored his internal chaos, a striking reminder of both his ambitions and the vast economic divide surrounding him. "Dad, why do you want to make it fancy? Can't you just be happy with someone who makes you laugh?" Lily's innocent question suddenly lingered in the air, a jarring wake-up call. He had let slip the glamorous details of their dinner while distracted, his mind preoccupied with the company's latest product launch. Now he felt torn. Here he was, a single father juggling life's high stakes, constantly validifying professional success with every dollar gained. Yet Lily's words forced him to reconsider everything he had been pursuing. His unease swirled within him like a storm. Should he focus on laughter over opulence? Had he been chasing happiness wrapped in society's expectations, forgetting the joy that having fun brings? There was a stark contrast between the laughter of his daughter bubbling over with love and the refined laughter expected at corporate gatherings. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The night of the dinner arrived, and as he and Sarah navigated their way to a lavish rooftop overlooking the bay, Jake's heart felt heavy. The enchanting view sparkled, but his thoughts were anchored at home, where Lily's drawings painted a world rich with imagination and innocence. Just hours before, her laughter filled their living room, the vibrant colors of her art capturing everything he had grown up wishing for, a sense of belonging and joy. As Sarah spoke about business strategies and market trends, her words became a distant hum. All Jake could think about was the weight of his decision, a creeping anxiety building within him. This evening was supposed to be a highlight, a conquest. Yet, as he mirrored his charming smile back at Sarah, a little voice inside him grew louder. What if that happiness was simply found at home, nestled among crayon smudges and bedtime stories? The twist came when Lily mentioned overhearing something in the park, a family secret, her eyes wide with wonder. What if happiness is just being together? What does it mean to be rich? Each word struck a chord, a haunting echo of his unresolved internal struggle. Did his career make him rich, or had he been missing the point all along? The choice loomed, pressing down on him like the city smog. Would he prioritize the alluring validation of another success story, or sacrifice it for an evening filled with unfiltered laughter and genuine moments? Just then, his phone buzzed, the screen lighting up with a call that could shift everything he had worked to build. Would he answer? Or would he take the plunge into the world of fatherhood that felt more fulfilling than the glimmering skyline beyond? The tension spiraled, unresolvable, just as his heart raced with unanswered questions. Jake's hand hovered over his phone, the glow of the incoming call illuminating the uncertainty on his face. He could feel the weight of expectation tugging at him, a tug-of-war between the professional path he had meticulously crafted and the deep, instinctual pull toward his daughter's world, where laughter and authenticity reigned. In a split second, he slashed through the anxiety and ended the call. It was a risk, true, but the noise of corporate ambition felt suffocating. He needed clarity, to ground himself again in what truly mattered. If laughter is the ultimate currency I should be seeking, then why am I here? The question echoed in the confines of his mind as he turned his gaze from Sarah toward the luminous skyline. What do you think, Jake? Sarah's voice broke through his reverie, her eyes narrowing with an inquisitive glance. She had made some point about the market strategy for their upcoming collaborative project. But Jake wasn't listening. Honestly, Sarah, he began, choosing every word with caution, do you ever wonder if we're chasing after the wrong things? The moment those words left his mouth, he sensed a strange electric thrill coursing through him. Was he really doing this? Confronting his professional reality openly at a dinner meant to impress? What do you mean? Sarah cocked her head to the side, curiosity piqued. I mean, are we so focused on metrics and expansion that we forget what matters to us personally? He expected a dismissive response, but instead, a flicker of something akin to understanding passed over her expression. Occasionally, yes. I mean, you're not wrong, she acknowledged slowly. But isn't that just the way the world works, especially in our field? Maybe, Jake replied, but doesn't it feel hollow sometimes? I don't want to be rich by society's standards but poor in my personal life. He took a moment, searching for the right balance of vulnerability and resolve. I have an 8-year-old who believes that true happiness lies in the simplest things, sharing time together, making memories, being present. For the first time that evening, silence stretched between them. The city lights sparkled beneath them like a million ideas waiting to be realized. Sarah's gaze softened, revealing a glimpse of the woman behind the professional facade. I can understand that. The pressure can certainly skew priorities. In that moment of shared honesty, Jake felt a shift within himself. He was not just a CEO compartmentalizing aspects of his life, he was a father who wanted to create a joyful world for Lily, one where pride could come from laughter rather than accolades. After finishing dinner, instead of heading to a bar, Jake blurted out, "What if we took a different route? I could call Lily, see if she wants to watch a movie instead." It might sound silly, but I'm realizing how much I miss those moments. Sarah regarded him for a moment, then broke into a laughter tinged with surprise. You really want to leave this fancy dinner for a night with your daughter? Yes. The conviction in his voice surprised even him. This may be an unexpected turn, but it feels like the right one. As they left the rooftop, Jake felt unshackled, liberated from the bonds of pretension. The weight on his shoulders seemed to have lifted. The moment he reached for Lily's favorite movie, ready to embrace her in that innocent world of whimsy, Jake was no longer just a singular pursuit of success. He was a father, an architect of joy and laughter. They were moments away from arriving home when another call rang in. This time, it was from an associate looking for last-minute instructions about the major product launch. As he listened, the urgency of that call collided sharply against the shimmering joy of the evening. Would he stay true to this new path of prioritizing laughter, or give in to the urgency that had governed so much of his life? As he hung up, Jake realized he was once again at a crossroads, yet this time he felt ready to embrace whichever road led him back to that laughter-filled life he had nearly lost sight of. But the challenge remained. How would he maintain this balance when other pressures amplified? What if the stakes of his career turned into an obstacle that kept him from the world he now craved? The tension coiled tightly around him, as Jake pondered the consequences of his choices. The next decision he needed to make was upon him, and for the first time, he felt both the weight of expectation and the sweet taste of freedom. Jake pushed the door open to reveal the warm glow of their living room, a sanctuary filled with the remnants of laughter and the soft echoes of past conversations. He dropped his briefcase by the entrance and listened intently. The familiar sounds of animated voices and the rustling of snack wrappers beckoned him further in. Lily's giggles tumbled down the hallway, and a wave of longing swept over him. "Dad!" Lily squealed as he appeared in the doorway. Her wide eyes sparkled with delight, and that smile, pure and unencumbered by adult complications, pulled him into the moment. "Hey, kiddo," he said, forcing away the remnants of his corporate facade. "What are you watching?" "The best superhero movie ever," she proclaimed, bouncing slightly on the couch as if to emphasize the excitement. The room felt vibrant, filled with life, and Jake realized that every decision he currently faced paled compared to the joy contained within these four walls. As they settled down on the couch together, he pulled Lily close, enveloping her in an embrace that felt like a fortress against the outside world. "I almost forgot how much I missed this," he admitted, his voice softening as he gazed into her big expressive eyes. "Missed what?" she asked, puzzled, her attention fixed on the screen. Just being here with you. Sharing these moments, he said, a depth of clarity washing over him. It's important, isn't it? Lily nodded sagely, her tiny brows furrowing in thought. You should quit your job and just be with me all the time, Dad. We could do fun stuff every day. The bluntness of her statement struck him like a cold splash of water. You think so? He chuckled, though inwardly he questioned what such a leap would look like. Could he really uproot everything he had built for his family on his daughter's unwavering faith in him? Yep. Like when we go to the park, and you push me on the swings, or when we bake cookies. Those are the best days. Her enthusiasm left no doubt about the value she placed on their time together. He felt torn. What would it mean to step away from the corporate grind? To fully invest in moments of laughter, exploration, and genuine connection? Jake weighed the option against the backdrop of board meetings, sales forecasts, and quarterly goals. But if I didn't work, we wouldn't have money for cookies or, these awesome movies, he replied, searching for an anchor in the logical world he inhabited. Lily scrunched her nose, considering his words. We can make cookies without money, Dad. Just flour and sugar. It's fun to be together. Isn't that better than work? Her assertion sparked something deep within the recesses of his mind. Could he really define success through familial joy instead of financial gain? As he pondered, the scene outside their window darkened, shadowy clouds gathered, mirroring his inner conflict. Lily leaned her head against his shoulder, and the weight of adulthood felt diminished. The pull of balance grew stronger within him. He started to see that the cookie baking, laughter-laden moments his daughter craved could also build a legacy far richer than his corporate accolades. He envisioned the shift. It wouldn't mean abandoning his career altogether. Rather, it called for a radical redefinition of priorities. Maybe I can find a middle ground, he mused. What is that? She queried, her curiosity piquing once again. I mean, what if I really focused on integrating my work and my life? Like starting a business that lets me spend more time with you. This idea sat differently with him, bold yet filled with promise. As the familiar superhero scenes unfolded on screen, a seed of inspiration took root in Jake's mind. Could he weave together success in the corporate world while nurturing the laughter in his home? But what challenges loomed ahead? Would the demands of business in a new light jeopardize the balance he sought? As the credits rolled, he felt a stirring urgency to act, evolution brewing alongside doubt in his chest. The night deepened, and with it, a new ambition unfurled within Jake. He took a deep breath. Contemplating this newfound possibility, the intersection of his professional ambitions and his profound desire for familial connection. But the road ahead was unclear, and as he stroked Lily's hair affectionately, preparing for this next phase, he knew the stakes had just risen dramatically. Was he ready to face the inevitable obstacles that might derail his quest for balance? And would his daughter's naive hope be reinforced or dashed in the process? The thrill of the unknown tingled at the edges as he contemplated what lay ahead. The following morning brought with it a sense of clarity that danced between anxiety and excitement. Jake awoke before dawn, the first rays of sunlight filtering through the curtains. He lay still for a moment, heart racing, contemplating the choices ahead. Thoughts of the corporate world merged with a desire to carve out something of his own. Could he transform his life into one that allowed more room for Lily, filled with shared moments that transcended the ordinary? The pull was strong, but uncertainty gripped him. He turned toward the desk across the room, a space cluttered with unorganized papers filled with notes on potential business ideas, alongside various reports detailing his current job. It represented both the stability he feared losing and the dream he was desperate to pursue. After a quick shower, Jake sat at the desk, coffee in hand. He glanced at the ideas he'd scrawled, the ones that seemed to flicker with promise. Each one reflected not only a professional goal but also contained whispers of how they could intertwine his personal life. A startup that incorporated family-friendly values, a podcast discussing work-life balance, or an online series that shared fatherhood experiences while exploring entrepreneurship. His thoughts were interrupted by Lily's cheerful call. "Dad! I'm awake!" The innocence in her voice brought him back to the present. A smile crept across his face as he remembered her words from last night, words that held strong wisdom. The thought of creating something that brought them closer, rather than pushing her further away, ignited a fire within him. After breakfast, with Lily munching happily on her toast, Jake decided it was time to take action. He retrieved his laptop and began researching small business plans. Clarity settled, he could align his work with his values while still providing for Lily. He scribbled notes, ideas forming into coherent plans, envisioning days filled with laughter, baking cookies from scratch, and spontaneous park outings. Yet, with every keystroke came creeping doubt. Who would take him seriously outside a corporate structure? His perception of professional identity had always been tied to a company name and a title. Would he be risking everything for a venture that could just as easily come crashing down? Financial stability, which once felt secure, now appeared treacherous, a path veiled in uncertainty. Lily's laughter reached him from the living room, breaking through the fog of his worries. The way she embraced life so fully was a stark contrast to his internal conflict. She didn't think about the complexities of adulthood, she lived for the moment. How could he teach her the value of resilience while being tethered to fears of failure? The truth settled heavily in his chest. Jake began penning a rough plan. It was basic, a mission statement intermingled with personal anecdotes about time spent together. He realized that this process wasn't merely about starting a business for himself. It was about building something sustainable for both of them. The idea took shape more clearly, a consultancy that specialized in work-life balance, aimed at helping parents navigate their careers while cultivating relationships with their families. Each day spent with Lily could serve as motivation, and every challenge a lesson to be shared with others facing similar dilemmas. Through this lens, he began to perceive both his life and his aspirations freshly. His venture would become a bridge to the life he wanted, fulfilling, meaningful, and intertwined with laughter. But just as excitement began to take root, a weighty realization struck him. To pursue this dream required him to step beyond his comfort zone, facing potential judgment from colleagues and critics alike. The potential of failure loomed larger than the joy he sought. In that moment of reflection, he sought out Lily in the living room. She was engrossed in a world of animated heroes, embodying everything he aspired to be: fearless, hopeful, and radiant. Her bright face illuminated a path forward. As Jake settled down beside her, he realized this journey was bigger than himself. It was about giving both of them a new rhythm to their lives. He was teetering on the edge of transformation, ready to leap into this fresh beginning. Yet, still residing within him was fear and the question that lingered: could he truly balance the exhilarating prospects of entrepreneurship with the demands of fatherhood? The answer danced just out of reach, and the tension in his heart intensified. What if the risk was just about business, but about his ability to genuinely redefine success? Determination unfurled within him, battling against mounting doubt. As he embraced his daughter, he knew their lives were about to shift, but the path forward remained shrouded in uncertainty. Would the evolution help nurture their bond or challenge it in unexpected ways? Their laughter broke through as Lily turned to him, her eyes sparkling with innocence, the perfect reminder that amidst every choice they would make, each moment held its own significance. Yet, as Jake turned back to the laptop, a shiver of anticipation washed over him. Could the real challenge lie within the journey itself, rather than its end? The next step awaited him, cloaked in possibility. The leap into the unknown loomed ever closer. The next morning enveloped Jake in an aura of resolute urgency. He woke up with a plan forming in his mind, a palpable ambition to redefine his life and career. The sun's rays cut through the early mist, brightening the room, whispering promises of new beginnings. He lay there, bracing himself for action, fueled by the thought of building a future that included not just professional success, but heartfelt moments with Lily. After a quick breakfast, Jake prepared for a meeting with his mentor, Chris, someone who had once walked away from corporate security to pursue a passion project. Jake had shared pieces of his vision with Chris previously, but today felt monumental. He needed guidance on navigating the initial stages of entrepreneurship, particularly in crafting a business model that resonated both personally and professionally. Lily's laughter echoed from the living room, a constant source of inspiration that filled him with warmth. It reminded him that he was not just a hopeful entrepreneur but a father with the responsibility to provide a nurturing environment for his daughter's growth. Arriving at the cafe, Jake felt the buzz of anticipation lacing through his veins. He spotted Chris at a table tucked in the corner, his demeanor reflecting professionalism and approachability. As he approached, Jake was struck by the contrast between his mentor's leisurely coffee break and his own whirlwind of thoughts. "Jake! Good to see you!" Chris greeted, a smile breaking across his face. "You've been hard at work on that idea of yours. Tell me, how is it shaping up?" As they settled in, Jake launched into a deeper description of his mission, a consultancy focusing on work-life balance for parents. He reflected on the many challenges parents faced, the isolation and guilt often accompanying their struggles. His vision felt electric, a recent discovery igniting a passion he hadn't openly acknowledged until now. Chris nodded thoughtfully, occasionally jotting down notes. "It sounds incredible, but have you considered what's at stake?" he interjected, a wry smile on his lips. "It's easy to lose sight of what matters when entrepreneurial ideals become the be-all and end-all." Jake felt a thin slice of anxiety, a blend of excitement and tension. "I need this to work. It's not just about me anymore. There's Lily." "Exactly," Chris mused, leaning back. "But being a single parent while trying to launch a venture is a unique kind of challenge. You might need to confront some tough realities about balancing your time and energy." The words hit hard. Jake knew Chris was right. There was a risk involved he hadn't fully confronted the potential for failure. That risk extended beyond finances. It seeped into his ability to be there for Lily, to uphold the promise of a father she could rely on. "What if you try creating a schedule? Prioritize both your business and your responsibilities as a dad," Chris suggested. "Segment your time effectively, and ensure you carve out dedicated moments with Lily. That will ease the guilt and propel your focus." Inspired, Jake mentally noted the recommendation. It wasn't merely about drawing boundaries. It was about steadfastly committing to both lives, separating his aspirations from his role as a father. As their conversation continued, Jake began identifying potential pitfalls and solutions, each strategy enhancing his belief in his capacity to transcend the pressures that lay ahead. Thus emerged a revelation: the consultancy could evolve into a community, an online forum where parents exchanged ideas, stories, and resources. It was a space to share struggles and lift each other up, fostering authenticity among those navigating both personal and professional landscapes. Chris could see the shift in Jake's demeanor as they wrapped up their meeting. "You're onto something. It's not just a business idea, it's a movement. Just remember, authenticity trumps perfection in both parenting and entrepreneurship." As the two parted ways, Jake felt an unwavering blend of hope and determination. Different moments danced through his thoughts: the laughter shared with Lily, the insight gleaned from Chris, the challenge of facing his fears. He was awakening to the realization that the most rewarding path often lay cloaked in uncertainty. The journey itself was the key. Returning home, he found Lily sprawled on the floor, surrounded by art supplies and half-finished drawings. The image stirred something deep within him. A richer life was not defined by his success but by the experiences shared together. Yet, just as resolve began to flow through him, doubts crawled back in. What would others think of his venture? Would it succeed, or would he become just another cautionary tale of failure? As he knelt to help her with her art project, a sense of foreboding settled in. The next steps would require not only strategy but an openness to vulnerability. The day faded into night, and uncertainty whispered at the edges of his mind. Could he truly transform into the leader both his business and daughter needed? A crucial decision loomed ahead, one that would test whether he could integrate the heart of his ambition with the soul of his fatherhood. As he tucked Lily into bed, her sleepy smile reaffirmed his purpose. But lurking in the shadows of his thoughts, the question begged for answers: was he prepared to face the judgments waiting patiently on the horizon? Tomorrow would unfold yet another chapter of his journey. A defining moment awaited. The dawn of the next day broke with an intensity that resonated through Jake's bones. He awoke feeling both refreshed and heavy-hearted, fueled by the weight of the choices before him. The call of entrepreneurship pulsed in his veins, yet the quiet whispers of doubt tangled with the fervor of his aspirations. Today was a new beginning, yet also an effort to reconcile the two identities he juggled, father and aspiring leader. After breakfast, where Lily unveiled her latest art creation, a fantastical dragon sprawling across the table, Jake found himself captivated by her imagination. Her eyes sparkled with belief, and he felt the bittersweet sting of motivation intermingling with responsibility. As they cleaned up, there was an unspoken connection that spoke volumes, a promise rooted in the present. Armed with his laptop and an undeniable sense of purpose, Jake drove to a nearby co-working space. It felt different than the corporate offices he had grown accustomed to. This environment vibrated with the energy of creators, dreamers, and doers. The walls were adorned with quotes about ambition and resilience, and soon Jake immersed himself in developing a framework for his consultancy. Yet, moments of productivity were punctuated by contrition. His mind often drifted back to what Chris had said about the weight of expectations, both professional and personal. Jake knew the stakes were high. Each click of the keyboard echoed his determination to forge something meaningful, but it was also underscored by the fear of letting Lily down. As the hours flew by, he faced the harsh realization the idea of starting a consultancy was only the surface. Delving deeper, he discovered he hadn't yet defined his identity as a father in relation to his new venture. What if his business was perceived as a distraction, or worse, an excuse? Could he truly balance the growth of his aspirations without neglecting the most important person in his life? Suddenly, the cursor hovered over the save button. Anxiety clawed at his chest. Would the forum be effective? Would parents trust him with their struggles? A flood of self-doubt swept through him. Perhaps it would be easier to stay in the safe confines of a 9-to-5. Then, he remembered Lily's laughter, her unfiltered joy. In those moments, she embodied hope and belief in possibilities. What if he shaped his consultancy around that essence? He envisioned a platform rooted in shared experiences, where he could facilitate real conversations about parental challenges. Authenticity became his anchor, but as he developed the concept further, Jake's resolve was tested. The fear of judgment began to creep back, and what would his peers think? Those who had long since traded their dreams for stability? Understanding that vulnerability was part of leadership was crucial, but the prospect of being open to criticism felt daunting. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, Jake had drafted an outline for potential workshops and online discussions that addressed parents' real issues. As exhaustion tugged at him, a voice chimed in his mind. What good were plans if he couldn't step out of his comfort zone? That evening, over dinner with Lily, they spoke about her day, their conversations a bubbling mix of creativity and laughter. He watched her intently, her enthusiasm wrapping around him like a cherished memory, stirring the determination he needed. As he tucked her in, she yawned, and in a sleepy whisper she said, "Daddy, you're going to be amazing, right? Like the stories we read." Her innocent words struck a chord, pushing him further into the depths of his resolve. He realized he could be both a father and an entrepreneur, if he chose to navigate his fears deliberately. With newfound clarity, Jake resolved to share his plans with Chris again soon. But deeper down, he sensed something larger was at play. His journey was becoming about more than just balancing roles. It was about transforming not just himself but the very definition of success. After he stepped out of Lily's room, a sense of urgency surged through him. His plan had taken shape, but the next steps would not come without their challenges. As he pored over the notes he had scribbled throughout the day, a thought lingered in his mind. Were there deeper complexities waiting to unfold? Over the coming days, Jake understood he would need to navigate criticism, face his fears head-on, and embrace the messy yet beautiful journey of growth as he stood for both his dreams and his daughter. Tomorrow loomed ahead, a day of crucial meetings, but it also carried the tremors of looming judgment, a confrontation that demanded courage and resilience. Little did he know, the moment would redefine his understanding of success and commitment, pulling him deeper into the core of his burgeoning identity. The morning arrived with a crispness that mirrored Jake's apprehension. As he dressed, the weight of his dual responsibilities pressed upon him. Today would not merely test his plans for the consultancy. It would demand that he embrace the vulnerability he feared. Standing in front of the mirror, he caught his reflection staring back, uncertainty lurking just beneath the surface. He dropped Lily off at school, her backpack bouncing with each skip. Watching her walk in, Jake experienced a familiar tug of pride mixed with anxiety. In that moment, he hoped fervently to set an example not just of achievement, but of authenticity. Could he convey the importance of pursuing one's passion while also nurturing relationships? As he entered his car, the air felt stifling, filled with the unsaid as he prepared for the day's meetings. Arriving at the co-working space, Jake felt the buzz of energy wash over him, but the excitement was quickly undercut by self-doubt. Today, he was scheduled to present his consultancy concept to a group of colleagues and mentors, including Chris. Each step toward the conference room echoed his apprehension. Could he still gain their respect while admitting his uncertainties? As the meeting began, Jake felt the familiar tightening in his chest. The room quickly became a whirlpool of ideas and critiques, an intellectual battleground. When it was time to present, he stood before them, notes trembling in his hands. He looked up to find Chris's gaze affixed on him, curiosity mixed with an understanding that stoked the fire of Jake's anxiety. Jake started with his vision for the consultancy, framing it around discussions that recognized the imperfections of parenting. He highlighted workshops aimed at nurturing genuine conversations, acknowledging the chaotic beauty of family life. But as he spoke, the room wasn't simply filled with nods. There were raised eyebrows and questioning glances that pierced through his confidence. "What's your experience in this field?" Chris asked, his tone neither harsh nor forgiving. It felt like a challenge, the kind that lay heavy on Jake's shoulders. "Why should parents trust you?" There it was, the iceberg of doubt surfacing, urging him to retreat into the safety of the familiar. But unlike the old version of himself who might have faltered here, Jake felt a sudden clarity. He took a breath and revealed parts of himself he had hesitated to share before. He spoke candidly about his struggles, his fears of inadequacy as a father, and how Lily inspired his newfound purpose. For the first time, Jake bared the raw edges of his journey, the vulnerability laying a foundation beneath his aspirations. It was a gamble, but it felt right. The atmosphere shifted, curiosity sparkled in the eyes around the room. He was met not with judgment but with a quiet acceptance, an acknowledgement of shared humanity. Even Chris nodded slowly, a flicker of respect illuminating his expression. After the meeting, as the tension in Jake's shoulders began to ease, he felt the exhilaration of confronting his fears. Standing in that room, connecting with others through honesty catalyzed a deeper sense of purpose. He understood then that success wouldn't merely mean launching a consultancy. It would mean fostering authentic interaction among parents like him, navigating shared struggles in an honest and relatable manner. As the day unfolded, Jake was buoyed by the realization that vulnerability could be a strength rather than an anchor. However, lurking within that empowerment was another complexity. How would he balance his newfound openness with the expectations of professionalism in a competitive landscape? That question clung to him as he left work, the contrast of buoyancy and uncertainty carving a path in his mind. When he returned home, he found Lily sprawled across the living room floor, engrossed in her art supplies. The sight grounded him. They spent the evening creating side by side her whimsical drawings, a reminder of the beauty in simplicity. As he tucked her in and felt her small body nestled safely under the covers, a new fear arose. Would his transparency in the consultancy space somehow impact their relationship? What additional weight might that bear? Jake's mind raced with the possibilities as he settled down for the night. Every step forward felt tantalizing, yet the shadows of doubt loomed larger. The space between aspiration and reality felt inconsistent, and he knew the journey wasn't just about building a consultancy. It was equally about redefining the way he navigated personal connections and vulnerability. Just as Jake was about to drift off, a siren call pulled him back. What were the consequences of his choices on their family dynamic? The day had pushed him deeper into the unknown, planting seeds of anticipation for tomorrow's challenges. As his eyes closed, he could sense a confrontation ahead that would demand clarity. Would he have the fortitude to combine these two facets of himself, or would he find himself caught in a clash of ideals? The dawn of the next day held the promise of answers, but also the potential for upheaval. The morning sun crept through Jake's bedroom window, casting warm hues on the walls as he roused from fragmented dreams. With lingering thoughts of his last meeting colliding with visions of Lily's sweet chatter, he felt the day's pressures coil around him anew. What awaited him was both exhilarating and daunting. He was to meet Chris for coffee, but this was not simply a social call. Chris had suggested discussing the consultancy further, and Jake knew it would be an inflection point. After dropping off Lily at school, he found himself pacing outside the coffee shop, rehearsing mental notes, like a performer practicing lines for a stage. Could he emerge as a leader today? The weight of professionalism lathered with personal ambition threatened to squeeze the air from his lungs. Walking inside, he spotted Chris already at a table, his hands wrapped around a steaming mug. The man exuded an ease that both comforted and intimidated Jake. "Hey you," Chris greeted, his expression affable but his eyes searching. "How are you feeling about the concept?" Jake took a seat, swallowing the lump of anxiety in his throat. This was the moment to solidify his intentions and navigate the tension between personal vulnerability and professional ambition. But just as the conversation began to flow, Jake felt a crack of hesitation deep within as they sifted through the initial details of his consultancy plan. Chris asked probing questions pried at Jake's defenses. "Your approach to honesty in parenting, do you think it sells?" Chris asked, his curiosity genuine yet unnerving. Not every parent is open to discussing their struggles. Jake paused. It would be easy to deflect, to dive into a safe narrative of statistics and guarantees, but he envisioned Lily's innocent sketches and how they captured unfiltered expression. Drawing from that spirit, he felt the urge to embrace authenticity once more. "Maybe it isn't about selling an idea at all," he replied, leaning forward. "What if it's about building trust? Real connection? That's what parents are seeking, someone who understands." Chris nodded slowly, his gaze unrelenting. "And how do you plan on ensuring that connection translates into a measurable impact?" Parents want results. They want reassurance. Jake's mind raced, aware that he stood at a crossroads of personal belief and professional reality. The looming challenges would not simply fade away with empty promises. He needed a grounded strategy, yet he found himself tethered to his emotional response. "I believe that admitting our flaws humanizes us. It fosters a shared experience. The real growth happens when we let our guards down," he replied firmly, though uncertainty still smoldered in the pit of his stomach. As their conversation wound on, Jake began to formulate tangible ideas that extended beyond mere workshops. He envisioned forums where parents could share stories, even struggles, enabling them to find respite within a community imbued with understanding. Chris leaned back, arms crossed, contemplating the shift in Jake's demeanor. "See, that's the heart of it," Chris said finally. "But you're going to have to back this with a structured plan. How can you illustrate this connection to potential clients?" Jake felt the tension dissolve slightly, the dialogue shifting into a constructive exchange rather than a gauntlet of scrutiny. They iterated through strategies as hours slipped by unnoticed, and Jake began to see a tangible outline emerge from the ether of his indecision. The more he spoke about his vision, not just as a father but as someone wanting to genuinely assist others, the more comfortable he became in his own skin. Finally, Chris laid his hands flat on the table, for once looking less like the intimidating mentor and more like a collaborator. "You have a real shot at this, but it requires clarity and focus. You're on the verge of something, own it. Meet expectations, but stay connected to that authenticity you cherish." Jake felt the weight of a heavy fog lifting as he digested Chris's words. There it was, a commitment not only to business success, but to purpose, a fusion of professionalism with the heart of parenthood. The day's talks ignited a spark of determination within him, propelling him beyond the murky waters of doubt. As he walked away from the coffee shop, an unexpected confidence surged through Jake. He could honor his journey without sacrificing his vision. These experiences had layered new depth into both his personal and professional life. But just as he began to envision the steps ahead, a text dinged on his phone. It was from Lily. Daddy, can we make those silly faces again? I want to draw more. Jake's heart swelled. The joyful innocence of her request beckoned him back to the core of why he embarked on this journey. Yet questions lingered. How could he maintain that playful, carefree spirit in the demanding world of consultancy? Tomorrow, he would need to face another challenge: harsh critiques from potential clients who might not share his vision. In navigating this new professional landscape, he could not ignore the subtle tug of home that anchored him. Would he be able to balance the heady expectations of success with the tender joys of parenthood? The moment of truth loomed, the stakes feeling higher than ever. It felt certain, yet deeply unsettling, as he contemplated the balancing act awaiting him. The sun hung low in the sky the next morning, casting a soft glow over Jake's desk as he sifted through notes for his upcoming presentation. Each page bore scribbled reminders and half-formed ideas, a chaotic mirror of his mental state. The thought of facing potential clients, individuals who might challenge his vision, gnawed at him. He felt a palpable tension between fear and the promise of opportunity shimmering just out of reach. Jake took a deep breath and closed his eyes for a moment, striving for clarity. He needed a plan that would encapsulate both his intentions and his daughter's playful spirit. How could he convey authenticity and emotional connection while ensuring that his consultancy appeared viable and professional? He envisioned those silly faces Lily loved to make, the laughter they shared fostering a bond stronger than words. Perhaps that was a step forward, bringing the essence of playfulness into a realm often marred by doubt and seriousness. He grabbed his phone, fingers hovering over the screen, contemplating whether to text Lily. She wasn't just his muse, she was his anchor. But he shook his head, chastising himself. This was not a moment for distraction, it was a time to focus. Arriving at the presentation a little early, Jake scouted the room. The stark whiteness of the walls felt sterile, almost suffocating. He narrowed his focus on a large whiteboard at the front, visualizing the diagrams he'd sketched to illustrate his points. As the other attendees filed in, he exchanged polite nods and practiced his introductions silently. Each newcomer wore an expression that ranged from curious to judgmental, exacerbating his anxiety. "Jake, you're up." Chris's calm voice cut through the haze of apprehension, infusing him with a jolt of energy. There was no turning back now. With a nod, Jake rose from his seat, a fierce determination igniting within him. As he approached the front, he momentarily banished the encroaching doubts that clawed at the edges of his mind. He launched into his presentation, beginning with the stark realities of parenting, acknowledging vulnerabilities and the common struggles parents face. He drew from personal anecdotes, recalling the nights spent comforting Lily after a tough day at school. His heart raced with each story, feeling the words embedded with authenticity rather than rehearsed professionalism. He invited the room into a world he knew all too well, inviting them to visualize the genuine connections he hoped to foster through his consultancy. As he transitioned into strategies, he realized his ideas were simply vehicles for establishing empathy, a way for parents to feel seen and supported. He illustrated how forums and discussions would not merely provide solutions but would nurture a community bound by shared experiences. Listening to the initial stirrings of interest in the room bolstered his confidence, but he could also sense skepticism simmering beneath the surface. "Jake," a voice cut through, a middle-aged woman with a skeptical frown etched across her brow, "you speak of connection and trust, but how do you plan to scale that? Can you really make this work in a business? Families need results, not just understanding." Jake faltered, a wave of familiar fear washing over him. There it was, the confrontation he feared. He felt the stakes heightening, his insecurities clashing with his vision. But rather than retreat, he recalled Chris's earlier encouragement. He focused on the heart of the question. "I can't promise instant results, trust isn't built overnight. But through starting with small, genuine interactions, we create a pathway for large-scale change. We start talking, and we start connecting, and from there, the real work begins." The weight of his words sank in, digging into the hearts of those listening. He carried the essence of his journey with each breath, honing his focus. Suddenly he understood, it was precisely this straddling of personal and professional that made him unique and valuable. The presentation came to an end, punctuated by a crescendo of applause that echoed in his ears. Praise poured in, yet it was the few skeptics who remained suspended in doubt that captivated his attention. The toughest audience members were those who could ultimately fuel his development, pushing him to sharpen his clarity and precision. As conversations unfolded, Jake noted a lingering feeling of unease, not from the critiques, but from the insights he gleaned through facing adversity. Each question exposed his vulnerabilities and, in turn, illuminated areas where he needed to grow. The world of consultancy would require him not just to connect but to evolve alongside the parents he aimed to serve. With the meeting over, a wave of exhilaration coursed through him. He stepped outside into the crisp air, invigorated, yet deeply aware that the challenges didn't end with the presentation. Conversations had emerged about potential partnerships, yet he couldn't ignore the lurking thoughts. How could he navigate the ambiguous terrain of ambition while staying true to himself? As he clutched his phone in hand, contemplating a text to Lily about their silly faces once again, a new realization dawned. How would the partnership opportunities challenge his values? Would he be able to cultivate those connections without compromising his vision? With uncertainty lingering like a gentle shadow, he stepped forward, ready to embrace whatever might come next. That evening, Jake sat at the dining table as he observed the colorful chaos that filled their home. The remnants of dinner lay scattered around him, yet the lively chatter of Lily about her day filled the space with warmth. As he watched her share animated stories, the laughter spilling over like a waterfall, something shifted deeply inside him, something fundamental and transformative. In the past, Jake had often felt drained by the responsibilities of being a CEO while also wanting to be a present father. His push for success had often placed him in conflict, attempting to balance the demands of a thriving career with the simple yet profound desire to be a genuine parent. But now, something had clicked within him. The presentation he had delivered earlier that day had not only elicited questions, it had marked a turning point. He had integrated his authenticity into his business approach, and the resulting validation invigorated him. "Dad, can we make those silly faces again today?" Lily's eyes sparkled with hope, pulling him back from his tumultuous thoughts. Jake smiled. "Absolutely. Let us do it now." It felt effortless, and as Jake mirrored the wild expressions that brought joy to his daughter, he allowed laughter to take over. This was it. No longer would Jake be ensnared by the chains of corporate expectations. He had discovered his true self amidst a joyful core, the nurturing father who could embrace both the lightness of life with his daughter and the gravity of professional responsibility. Jake committed to reshaping his consultancy, not merely as a means to fill his schedule or validate his ambition, but as a platform designed to foster authenticity in the balance between career and family life. He envisioned interactive workshops where parents could share and connect on experiences, pooling together stories of both laughter and struggle. With every intention solidified, Jake sensed the courageous side of himself breaking free, ready to forge a path that balanced genuine connection with professional growth. His experiences with Lily were no longer just about creating fleeting memories. They would become tangible inspiration for a venture that sought to guide parents toward finding joy amidst the whirlwind of demands. Weeks passed, and the consultancy began to take shape. Feedback flowed in not just elegant responses, but heartfelt appreciation from parents who felt understood in a previously isolating space. As he met with families, the joy reflected through their stories resonated with him profoundly. They were thrilled to be part of a community grounded in authenticity. Their struggles became shared experiences woven into the very fabric of Jake's consultancy, their resilience and courage illuminating possibilities. His dual roles no longer stacked up against one another but instead synergized into a fulfilling cadence. Jake created moments with Lily where laughter sparkled as vibrantly as her dreamy illustrations. The busy life of a CEO became manageable as he intentionally planned time for fun and connection, reinforcing his commitment to authenticity. The burdensome pressure he once felt to succeed dissipated as joy stepped into its rightful place, taking hold. As he reflected on this journey, Jake acknowledged that success wasn't measured merely in financial terms but rather in genuine moments spent with the ones he loved. The conflicts that once overshadowed his life had morphed into opportunities for connections, a different type of wealth altogether. At a recent networking event, a fellow entrepreneur approached him, remarking on his community's growing influence in the parenting landscape. "You've really tapped into something powerful, Jake. It's not just business, you've fostered a movement," she stated, her eyes shimmering with admiration. Validation hit him sharply, coursing through his veins as he realized that his unique voice was being recognized. People wanted authenticity, and by embracing his personal truths, Jake had carved out a significant impact, a legacy of both personal and professional fulfillment. The transition had been daunting, yet Jake had come out on the other end, now standing tall with solid confidence and a renewed sense of purpose. As he tucked Lily into bed one night, she reached out and wrapped her tiny fingers around his hand. "Dad, you're amazing," she whispered sleepily. He smiled, knowing now that they had built an unbreakable bond amidst laughter and sincerity. "Thanks, kiddo. We are amazing together." Jake had achieved his goal not only as a successful CEO but as a devoted father who had proven that joy could coexist with ambition. His life became one of celebrating the moments, the laughter, the memories, while nurturing both his dreams and the light in Lily's eyes. This was the achievement that would define him from now on. Now listen closely. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to our channel for more exclusive emotional stories that will inspire you. And don't wait even one more second to leave a like and feed the algorithm, because your support makes all the difference. Tell us in the comments how this story impacted you. Share your reactions and theories about Jake's journey. Finally, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion to inspire them through their own transformations.